Welcome to the Bucky Beeman audio adventure, and I am joined here today. I'm excited to learn more. Marcus, where did we first meet? I can't even recall. Had to be the internet.
I was following Duke Long, and he had, I think, his top LinkedIn, his top Twitter folks in the CRE, commercial real estate world, and I think you were one of them. And so I think I started following you, and we just started a conversation from there.
That is cool. It is so cool to see how the internet can work and how you can meet people in like-minded in the industry or like-minded in a certain way. And I think from there, I just invited you. I said, "Hey, let's do a podcast," and you were wondering what for.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
So, my podcast, I would say it's like I said, it's the audio adventure. I've just been doing a podcast now for a year, trying to get in front of more people that are interested in commercial real estate, sharing about their story, their journey. The thing that I find in commercial real estate is people often think it's this big, powerful industry that takes years to get into, and you got to have somebody in the industry that's in your family, or you got to be in a huge market to really be successful. And I'm trying to debunk that in certain ways. And I recall in our last conversation, your path to getting into commercial real estate was a little different than what everybody else's path was. So let's learn more.
Probably much different. Yeah. I'm from a town of about 2,000 people up in northeastern South Dakota. So the version of commercial real estate in that town might be like one sale every 5 years on a barn or a I don't know, maybe some kind of Main Street building.
Grain elevator.
Grain elevator. Yeah. I mean, it's very minimal. Residential real estate isn't even a market really in those communities. It's just a few lawyers do a few deals here and there in between all the deals that they do for farmers. So I didn't know that the industry existed, let alone that it was an industry in my home state of South Dakota and the city that I had moved to after college, Sioux Falls. So I got started off by going into the economic development world, which is what I wanted to do. And I worked for a local government, and I really enjoyed that, but I found that it was tough to make progress. It was tough to have to kind of justify your efforts every few weeks to, a public council or a public board. I didn't really want to wake up 40, 50 years down the road and not have made much progress over time that I can have a tangible result from, right? So I went into sales, kind of became a student of the sales world. Started following folks like Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, people very well known, I know, to folks in the social media world. And I really enjoyed that. I worked for a local company here. I was actually out doing outbound sales, selling office supplies, office equipment, copiers. I basically worked for the office, Jim Halpert. No, he wasn't a coworker. It was really fun. It was engaging. It was entertaining, but it was hard because we were competing against the internet. It's kind of a cutthroat competitive industry because you're working on just such a thin margin. So anyways, I learned the ins and outs of business, but I always wanted to get back into that economic development. It kind of led me full circle to that commercial real estate industry.
Cool. And then what year did you get into commercial real estate?
I got licensed in 2017. So I think it was April or something, Q1, Q2 of 17. I started.
And was it commercial real estate right out the gates? Some people start in residential, so that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, yep. It was commercial out the gates. And sometimes I get that question. People think there's like a transition period, or like sometimes maybe you start in residential. It's completely different. Well, I don't have to tell you. But no, it was commercial out of the gates.
And I get this question quite a bit. I'm curious if you do. So did you have to go for a different license altogether and get this extra education or additional or different education for commercial?
South Dakota, it's the same license.
Same with Minnesota. Yes. Same.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So tell it.
That's okay. easy barrier to entry, very low barrier to entry. I wouldn't mind if it was separated, because what it allows is every once in a while, folks, we call them resumercial. They might dabble into the industry when they don't really do it full time. So,
well, yeah. And then on that topic is the classes that we took, most of it, if not almost all of it, was relatable to residential and not so much commercial. So that's one of the reasons groups like CCIM exist and other entities, right?
Right. Which is very much a reason to kind of get out and start attending industry trade shows and going to those different CCIM programs, because there's not much of it available to people just getting in the industry. Very little.
So going back to the first time you show up at the office, was it what were you told to do to drum up business?
Oh, yeah, good question. I think I'm lucky. I have a few, older gentlemen in my office that have been in the business for 20, 30 years that they've done very well over a long career. So they're just in a different phase of their career. So I can't remember the exact day, but I'm guessing that they told me about a listing that they had and said, "Hey, go try to find me a buyer or a tenant." And so I went out and tried to do that. And I literally remember asking the question, how? And they said, "Well, it's just like you were doing selling copiers. You can find the person who makes the decision." So I guess I picked it up pretty quick. I think I did because I was already doing B2B sales. And that's, at the end of the day, we're doing a lot of that. So talking to business owners. So I understood that part. The whole investment avenue and that whole game has been a learning curve and a little bit different, but I understood the B2B sales and going out and trying to find a decision maker. So that's, I think, how I started. Just started talking to everyone that would meet with me.
And do you recall what your first deal was? The one that you were able to help somebody out with?
Yeah, I joined a networking group like a BNI. Like it was spin off, not exactly BNI, but it was I think I actually joined it before I even started, and then made some contacts. And one of the guys in that group needed an executive office. He was a IT guy, and anyways, I basically helped him negotiate a deal and find a space before I really even started. So I had no idea what I was doing. Just kind of shooting in the dark, but we made it happen, and I helped him lease a single executive office, probably 180, 200 square feet maybe.
Yeah. Those are the best ones. Those are it's great because you can learn so much from such a small space on how a transaction works.
Yeah, I think we were probably touring, and I don't know what the rent was, $500 a month or $600 maybe gross plus utilities. And he's asking me, "Well, can we do something here? Change the paint? Can we negotiate the rent?" Of course, I said yes to every question. Yeah, we'll fight them down. We'll come in with an offer of $400 and beat them down. Well, none of that happened, right? I basically just agreed, and then it was listed by an agent who had, had the whole building listed, various suites. Another agent in my office, one of those guys has been in the business for 30 years, and he just laughed and said, "No, come get the deal if you want, but
it's take it or leave it."
Take it or leave it, yeah. So I just wasted my time, but that's all right. That's how it works.
The funny thing with some of those smaller spaces too, now this is a little different because it was listed, but I found often those smaller spaces aren't listed. So then when you try to prove to the landlord that you should receive a compensation for bringing somebody, sometimes it's an uphill battle when you're leasing those small office spaces.
It is, yeah. I've done a few of those since, and I've learned, and I've been upfront with folks saying, "Hey, if I'm not going to get paid by the landlord, I have to get paid by you." And that I found that really helps the conversation go quickly, either good or bad, because you'll really figure out if they're serious or not. Should they have to pay a fee at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's the truth. So now fast forwarding, you're into your fourth year? Third year. So, you're just getting through the college years, we'll call it, right? You're going to go on to your fourth year and you're going to graduate and be a whiz. What the heck have you learned over the last 3 years?
Trial by fire, right? So it's amazing. I was actually reflecting and looking back on how much I've learned, and it seems like just the basics in deal structure and kind of knowing where things will land is really the main learning curve, right? Not over promising, because you can't control something that you might overpromise because it's controlled by someone else. And that someone else might have another broker, right? So it's several people down the line that actually make that decision, not you. Very transparent and honest and upfront. Not that I wasn't honest before, but just maybe realistic is the word in getting more deals done, being more aggressive in regards to advising clients, because we're in a good market like several others around the country that things are going well. So sometimes you're dealing with folks on the other side of the court that they really don't need to negotiate that much. And so that's okay. Really diving into the psychology of the business.
Are you looking back at all the last 3 years and saying, I should have bought that property? Have you seen some of that already transpire in 3 years?
A little bit. I probably went the full first year to two, maybe year and a half, really not ever thinking like that, thinking like a buyer, which I regret, because you really have to put yourself in that person's shoes to understand the process. So lately, I think I've learned a lot and advanced a lot, just putting myself in those shoes, saying, hey, what should this person do, rather than advising them from a different perspective, advising from their perspective. I've seen a little bit of that. Yeah.
And I would say it's a good path for most commercial real estate agents to get into the ownership because of the experience you can gain. And the founder of our company, he got into multiple ownership opportunities of owning hotels and owning restaurants that included real estate. And it was with different partners. The partners added different value than he did. And I think that was part of the reason he had such a great career. So it's like you do definitely get in that mindset of like, if I'm going to be doing this, I should probably own something.
Yeah. Have you gotten into that mindset at all?
I absolutely have. Yeah. So I'm fortunate to be involved in a few partnerships with commercial properties where they've really brought me and Dad the value of the leasing, of course, and then also just being the boots on the ground for when there is something going on in the market that I would hopefully bring the building, the tenant, the first place to, bring them by. It's been a great thing for my business because I've got leads off those buildings. I ultimately automatically become the leasing agent on. So yeah, it's been a good move in my business. And I know similar for my coworkers is just that ownership side. I'm not as big of a fan of apartments. It just doesn't get me as excited as commercial space, but a few guys in my office, they have ownership in some apartments, and it's been good for them as well. And it's really like that retirement plan for myself and for them, in the sense that, we're not contributing to a 401k and a Roth IRA, even though we could be. We're contributing to the ownership of assets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little bit different. So again, tell me about your first deal.
My first deal was a Taco John's that was vacant, and in the front side there was a guy selling cars. In the back side of the Taco John's there was a kitchen, and I knew of somebody, I can't remember how I got the lead, I want to say Craigslist or something like that was looking for a kitchen space. I want to say he sent me an email and said, I'm looking for a kitchen space to make something, fudge or some type of food. He needed a commercial kitchen. And I said, oh, I know of one because I know this guy that has an old Taco John. So I took him there. I ended up putting him into that space, and I didn't get paid the commission. so it was a good learning lesson. And I remember that deal. And, that Taco John's is now a Domino's, and I've seen it transpire over the years. I'm like, I should have bought that Taco John's. And yes, that was my very first deal that I can put my finger on.
That's pretty interesting.
Let's dive in a little bit of social media and the internet, and when I say the internet, what comes to mind for you as far as how have you seen it develop since you got into the business? How is your team using it now versus how they were using it before? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so I've never really been big into social media marketing. I have a marketing degree, but I just haven't personally done it a lot. And that's to the extent, one, that I maybe not am most knowledgeable to. I'm somewhat reluctant to put myself out there more than, several others that I may know, right? Where I found success, where I found it to be a really good avenue, especially in the professional world, is LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I've, either it's publishing articles or sharing articles or talking about experiences, mainly just general market stuff, broader economy conversations. It gets people interested. And if, where I've seen successes, I've been able to kind of spin it back to our local market, to our state, to our town, and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing on a national or an international level, but it's also affecting us here in little old South Dakota.
Yeah.
Right? And people have found, I've just had good reactions to that over time. But that's just the start, right? So social media is really just the tip of the spear. And I found that when I have taken the time and given the effort to follow up and really try to keep planting and digging in with these connections that I have, that they'll lead to in-person meetings, they'll lead to phone calls, and a connection online becomes a connection in person, which becomes a deal, right? So I've actually had some tangible results of some deals that have happened because of LinkedIn.
Yeah. And I think you touch on something that I don't do a great job at, is adding my 2 cents on top of somebody else's piece of content. And I see a lot of people do that. And it's really a good idea for the fact that you don't have to come up with all of your own original content, your own main story, your own video, your own picture. You can take someone else's work and then add your spin, your opinion, your thoughts to it. And I think there's a lot of opportunity, especially starting off and doing that, because it eliminates that whole step of what am I going to write about today? It's more, what can I find that I can then add my 2 cents on top of it?
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm a self-described kind of news junkie. Every day it's a few local papers, local websites, but it's the Wall Street Journal, it's USA Today, national publications as well. And I found that with some effort, it's pretty easy to not only find something that somewhat relates locally, but to take it down to a granular micro level and say, hey, this is really affecting our local economy, or we're seeing this here. And people are interested in that stuff. Now, I've always had a goal of saying, hey, I want to do an article a week or whatever, a post a day. I've never accomplished that goal. And I don't know if I ever will, but these bits of information here and there where I can add my 2 cents or agree with or disagree with someone's take, they seem to have some value, and people they at least enjoy taking it in and having conversations about it.
Yeah. And, my mind goes to Gary Vee, where he says, be the media company. And that's where I've really pushed my personal marketing. Is I love video. It just comes from my hunting background in high school. I like videotaping my hunts with my buddies. And so that storytelling has turned into, how do I do that in my career? And I'm doing it on Instagram as my main channel. But then it's taking it a step further of thinking like Gary tells you to, where he says, be the media company. And when he says that, it's in our local Post Bulletin newspaper. It is a guy by the name of Jeff Kiger that does a great job and has for years of sharing the breaking news in Rochester. And he does his little blip. It's in a written form. And now he's starting to do more YouTube. And I basically take that concept, as he has done for years, and then I add additional segments to it on a weekly episode, as we'll call it. So every Thursday I go around the market, I take pictures, take videos, make it fun, entertaining, and share what the heck is going on in the community.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's a really good idea. I've not gotten to that level at all. So you're well advanced beyond me in that regard.
And the one thing that's helped me as far as doing it is setting a day. Every Thursday is the day. And if I dedicate that energy and time and effort to creating that content on that day, what I find is I'm also building up a database in my camera roll of my phone, because I'm doing this all from my phone, right? I'm not holding the camera, it's my phone. And I'm building up a database. I can then schedule posts for later on the following week. And it just becomes as much as I want to be active on social, and I'm probably abnormal in the amount that I'm doing it, it becomes less work because I really focus with one day. I got to get it done. No excuses.
Have we seen some ROI examples on that too then? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. So it builds a brand. I mean, in Sioux Falls, I would say that if I were to show up in the market and start creating that market update, And obviously you got to have a Google page and you got to be active on Facebook and you got to go to the networking events, but then taking it that step farther of like going and following people in the market on Instagram and then telling people every Thursday, come here and I'll show you what's happening that I see. And I'm new here, so I don't know what's going on, but I'll find something. It gets people to start to know your name. And as a result, it just takes time, but eventually people will bring up your name in conversation, which leads to the opening of the door. And so I have a lot of leads that have come in because of the brand that I'm working to build. And I don't keep, like, I'm not a data person where I keep track of this one came from Instagram or this one came from this person, but I can tell you I got a lot more leads than I have ever had. And part of it is being in the business longer, but also it's just putting yourself out there online to show what you're passionate about. And I'm passionate about the local market.
Yeah, that's cool. That's pretty cool.
So if you go back, and I wonder if we had this similar feeling, our firm was started in the 70s. The firm you're a part of, I imagine, has been around for some time. What do you think they see as far as the internet and opportunity, or what have you showed them that you're doing, or what's the talk of the internet, like LoopNet and things like that? Are your listings out there on these listing services? What's the thoughts of the?
We're like in the archaic age, not only in the CRE industry, but in Sioux Falls and in South Dakota, we're just behind the times. I mean, we don't have CoStar. But the process of us searching the market is we go to each individual brokerage's website and look at their listings on their website. And so, I have that down to a science, and so do several others in the market, but it's not an efficient way to do it, right? They're not all in one area. We can't print off a report. We've got to basically go make our own.
Right.
So, and I haven't done that good of a job with kind of relating my, experience in LinkedIn or other social media platforms to my colleagues saying, hey, this worked. We've talked about it a little bit here and there, but it seems that I'm one of the adopters, maybe the few adopters in our market that's even considering or looking into some of those paths, not only for, personal interest and hopefully having some ROI on the back end, but also because it could be beneficial for many different reasons.
Mm-hmm. And when you say that, we're a little further ahead in Rochester, Minnesota, but I'm not going to say we're light years ahead. So we're a little further ahead. We're fortunate that we have this big institution called the Mayo Clinic, which brings global attention, which also brings attention from the Minneapolis market. And so we're now recognized on MinCar, which is the Twin Cities search engine for commercial real estate. They now recognize Rochester as that, and you can put your listings on there. And LoopNet and CoStar, there's users locally that use CoStar. I'm not a user of it. I use LoopNet, but our listings are fairly transparent in the market on LoopNet, and people post on there. Now, because the fees are rising, these brokers are going, what the heck? Maybe we should post on a place like Crexy, but we're a little further ahead that our listings are more transparent than they've ever been. But I will say that when it comes to social media, people still are trying to figure out what the value is there. So it's the listing services are number one, and then the social media is a whole nother thing to wrap your head around, right?
Yeah. We have all of our listings are pulled onto LoopNet externally, so they're all out there. But I mean, good point. I'm glad you brought up Crexy because we're seeing actually a lot of adoption on that.
Yeah.
I've got a few agents in my office that have been buying into the pro service or the full service. That's pretty powerful. So I could see some avenues opening up there here in the near future.
So one thing I would like to say is if you can view Facebook as a listing channel, just like Crexy and LoopNet, and then you can recognize, okay, I can put my listings on there. Now it's a matter of how do I get people to come there? And now there's this whole nother strategy that you can pull ads against each individual listing to get it to show up into people's feeds. Now, the concern you're going to have is it just showing up in someone's feed that's never interested in commercial real estate? And so is there certain things you can do with the ad placement to help it go to the right people? But I haven't figured this out yet, but I think there's opportunity there because I truly do feel that out of every listing service, Crexy, LoopNet, Facebook, Instagram, the one that has the most people's attention is Facebook and Instagram. And now they may not be as focused on commercial real estate, but if you can find a way to show up in their feed, I think there's a ton of opportunity there for people like yourself and myself to really build our business, because it's got the people, it's got them there.
Yeah, it's got the people, it's got their attention, right? So it's a really good point. If you just break down number of users, right? I mean, everyone's on it. So yeah.
And then you can pull the ad. So you got a warehouse building that you're marketing right now. You can pull the ad focused on a 5-mile radius, 10-mile radius, 15-mile radius. And then let's compare this cost. Okay, so I spend $50 over the next 30 days on this building on Facebook. And what does it cost me a month to post on a place like LoopNet or Crexy? Am I getting the same amount of impressions, clicks, and hopefully leads that I am getting on every single channel? And I haven't done this, but I mean, that's something we got to look into, because where's your money being best spent?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
a good point.
One thing I've noticed just being active on social, again, back to the brand, is it has helped my brand exponentially. I just started pulling ads against a building, and let's say we're $60 into the ads, and I could get the exact numbers. And I've had now in the last 2 weeks about 5 people that I kind of know, right? So I'll give you the example. I had a guy I placed into a building 3 years ago. I ran into him today. I was at the building for another reason. He goes, "Hey, what's going on with that building down in Lake City, Minnesota?" And I'm like, well, the only way he saw that is because of the ad. I'm like, well, we haven't leased it yet, but we're working on it. I'm in the line at the bank. I go up to the teller. The teller goes, "Hey, are you doing more things on Facebook nowadays?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been doing quite a bit." I'm like, what did you see? And he's like, "Well, some building," and I think it was this building, some building, and it showed up with an ad. And then the lady next to him, another teller, goes, "Yeah, I saw something about some building too," right? And then the fourth one is I get a phone call from a person I'm trying to do a deal with. We haven't got there yet. And he goes, "Hey, I saw your building in Lake City. Nice ad." And it's like, wow, I don't get that when I put it on LoopNet. I mean, I do, but it's not that same. Again, back to the conversation of, is it people actually interested in commercial real estate, or is it people that are just maybe never going to do a commercial real estate deal? That's the fine balance
Yeah, maybe 3 of the 4 there won't ever do one. I don't know, but
exactly.
But if you're getting, it's a volume game at that point, right? If you hit so many of those people, you can break it down to make it make sense.
Exactly. How about your website? So you talk about brokers' websites and you're looking for them. How do you feel about your website? Real honesty.
I don't have a personal website.
Okay.
So I base everything off of really, it's my profile or my page on our company website. I like to kind of keep updating that with referrals. We've done some videos on there, different, community involvement type stuff. I've played around with the idea in my head of having a personal website. I haven't got to that level yet. So, something to consider for the future. But as of now, I've just been keeping it kind of through my company website and through my profile. Yeah.
And I don't have a really good personal website either. I personally would say brokers should build out a Facebook page much more than they should a website. And they should, because again, people's attention's on Facebook, and then the functionalities that are built in for free is everything you could ever need to use. Where you try to build your own website, you come up with all these things you want it to do, but reality, it only can do 1/3 of everything you wish it could. And then it's your time to try to figure out how to update that website.
Yeah, and I really should probably do a better job on this, but the main thing I want to do is, 1, make sure enough people know me in the market.
Yep.
And 2, they know what I do, right? That's really the main goal. Well, 3, be accessible, right? They have to know how to get hold of me, but that comes along with number 1 and 2.
Yeah. I would say we're similar in the sense that a lot of brokers don't have personal websites, and they always have thought about it, but how to truly capitalize on that money spent, it's difficult to recognize how that it would turn into good results.
Mm-hmm.
What, as you go along in your career, what are some of the things you're excited for? You had mentioned this whole community background, and that's a fun thing about commercial real estate is it really can affect the community. So I'm curious what you're excited for to work into the future with commercial.
Yeah, it's fun. Like I had lunch today. I I'm very interested in politics, state and local. I don't know how that'll weave into my future, but you know, at the very least, it's of general interest. And well, it weaves into what I do a lot, right? Because I'm getting to know local politicians on a regular basis. And not only am I getting to know them, a lot of times I'm talking to them about what's going on with zoning or with taxes. There's certain issues that I'm directly involved in that I can give them a voice on, about bringing business in or restrictions, different things like that. So I've often been under the mindset of saying, hey, I don't want work-life balance or to kind of divide those. My goal in life is to have those be as combined and as interweaved as possible, because I want to go out to dinner, some night with my wife and run into someone that I know that says, hey, I was thinking about calling you, right? We need to talk about this. Or to talk to someone about, some kind of local political race, saying, hey, I could use your help to connect with someone like this. So I get super excited with community involvement, kind of interweaving those things, right? Because they all go back to the job and into what I do, which is, making commission and making sales, or helping people buy, sell, lease commercial real estate. But they don't have to be separated. So I get excited, and I oftentimes try to bring those things together.
Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like commercial real estate is the home of the businesses that exist and thrive and fail and, start up and sell out. And it's the brick and mortar, the four walls, the front door, the back door for all of those people. And our communities can't thrive without the brick and mortar, and they can't thrive without the people. And it really encompasses so much in commercial real estate. That's a fun thing about it.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to think about. I mean, I'll give you an example. Today, I had lunch with a guy that he works for the governor of South Dakota. He's done some lobbying, but anyways, we were talking about South Dakota is very tax friendly. We're extremely low regulations. We're always saying, hey, we're open for business. And I brought up, I said, you got a team here, not just me, but the people in the commercial real estate community, they're really your kind of de facto salespeople for you. They work for themselves. But there's ways to empower them in regards to bringing some of those businesses in and public-private partnerships. And so it's a conversation like that could lead to so many different directions. But at the end of the day, we're all working for the same goal, which is to try to, stabilize and vitalize our local community.
Yeah. Yeah. And have you worked with some of those startups? Do you have that experience of somebody that it was an idea when they met you and now it's an actual business?
Yeah, I have a little bit. Yeah, here and there. A lot of times those folks maybe don't need space right away. That I always laugh when they call me first, but I'm sure you've dealt with that too. But there's some that I've worked with that haven't even got to the point of having space yet. But I kind of pivoted them back to the start, which is business planning, accounting, legal, things like that.
Yep.
So it's kind of fun to see some of those start off, and you never know where they'll go.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because it makes me think they're like, okay, we're getting into business, we're going to do this thing, and we need a space, right? And so then they call you and they're like, all right, so how does this work with this whole space thing? You're like, well, tell me about what you're doing first.
Yeah, do you have a business plan? Have you filed an LLC?
Yeah.
Any of the above started at all, right?
So much of our business is advising as well. And I think even more so now that the listings are transparent, that people can find these listings from their bed on LoopNet app or in their computer at work or wherever they're at. And so now it's like, okay, do I need the real estate agent to find me the location? I need him to get me in or her to get me in, but do I really need him to find that? And then it's like, well, I do have other questions for them. And so like Wednesday, I'm meeting with a group that would like to develop something they never have before. And I'm introducing them to the architect and the civil engineer and the contractor and, trying to help them with all the pieces that hopefully it leads to a sale, but we'll see if it comes to fruition or not.
Yeah. You don't know, but I found, and you probably agree, it's always good to be in early in those conversations, right? Rather than you're brought in at the very end, because you can help kind of dictate how things go. You can connect them with the folks that will help them. My managing director partner here in the office, he likes to, I'm a big football fan. He likes to call us the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
not going to go out and win the game by ourselves by any means, but we will help direct and kind of lead the team down the field for hopefully for the opportunity to score a touchdown. Right, we're going to be that person that's connecting those folks.
Yeah. If you had to give any advice, somebody's sitting in a sales job and they're just thinking about commercial real estate could be a career, or they're young coming out of school and they're thinking maybe this commercial real estate thing is intriguing to me. Correct me if I'm wrong. You don't have family in the business, right?
No.
So yeah, maybe they have no family in the business. Like what would be some advice you'd give them to get going?
Well, it depends if they want to get involved in brokerage or investing. I guess one and the same. I'll answer the first part with, you got to go out and earn revenue. You got to make money. Doing something. I tell some people that, I might have a hope and a dream, and those are good, and I'm the same way. But at some point, you have to have money to do something like that, buy commercial real estate, or to get involved in any sort of investing or managing. So that's the first thing I would say. If you're kind of wishing or thinking you might want to do something, you got to go out and make money doing something else first. Then it might lead you into that second opportunity. And if that second opportunity is brokerage or some sort of sales role, I would dive into the books, because there's so much material out there to go out and learn. General sales techniques, that work in commercial real estate, talking to everyone and anyone asking them, how they got involved, and just kind of going on a learning tour, I'll call it, to figure out what the best path might be for them.
Yeah, good advice. Very good. Job shadowing is huge. I think you can learn so much just riding along without making that investment of your real estate license right out the gates.
Yeah, I would say that that's pretty far down the road. Just like the example we said, you don't need to go find the space first. You need to do your business plan first.
100%. So, yeah. Marcus, if people are looking for real estate in your neck of the woods, where can they go online to find you? Where's your focus in the South Dakota market? And let people know.
I was on a podcast a few weeks ago. A friend of mine named Ben Hanton. He's got a podcast called The Lanyard here in South Dakota that's pretty popular. And he asked me a question, how to get a hold of me. I just said, well, I'm just going to give my cell phone.
Heck yeah.
So I'm going to do it again, 605-228-9744. I've got, LinkedIn page. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. But for the most part, whenever I'm talking to people and they're trying to get a hold of me, I will always reference my phone number.
I'm going to give you a challenge too. You need to get on Instagram and you need to start playing around with it. Are you on there yet?
I'm not. I've thought about that too. I should probably do that.
Yes, that's your challenge. So I hope next time we're on the podcast, I can ask you how your Instagram game is going. I think you'll find it's really a good place to build your brand in the community. And there's so many people on there. There's a reason Facebook bought Instagram. They knew that it had real potential.
So do you listen to the How I Built This podcast by chance, Guy Ferrazzi?
I've listened to it once, but I can't recall what episode it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's one on Instagram, and it's fascinating because those guys, built it in, when did they start? I think 2008, and they sold it in 2012.
Right.
For $2 billion.
And that was a deal when it's all said and done?
Oh, a huge deal. But they refused like $1 billion offer, like 2.5 years into, I don't know. Anyways, I would recommend going and listening to that one, because that's pretty outer worldly in regards to what happened there. But that's what happens when a great idea comes together.
That's exactly right. Thank you so much, Marcus, for joining me. This has been a blast, and I hope to be connecting here again soon. Let's keep talking commercial real estate.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch. I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, Bucky.
You bet.